My name's Roger Shepherd. I'm from New Zealand. I live now here in South Korea. I've been here about 9 years now, and I specialise in taking photos of mountains of the Paektu Dagon, North and South Korea. I live in Gure, Jeollanam-do. I also do mountain guiding for foreigners visiting South Korea. I do writing. I've published 5 books. A long time ago, I taught English here for 1 year in, I think, 1999 or the year 2000. And during my time in Korea, I'd spent a lot of time on my weekends exploring the mountains. That was in the Dagon area. After Korea, I went back to New Zealand and I joined the police. I decided to come back to South Korea, and then when I came back here, I discovered this thing called the Paektu Dagon, and there was no information on it, so I was quite fascinated by that. And it was quite hard to find information about how to hike it, because the internet was still very new, but the thing is people were hiking it, and I thought that's much more interesting than, say, exploring the national parks. Plus it passes through like 7 national parks anyway. As the ultimate adventure was for me to be on a mountain ridge that no foreigners had ever visited or even knew about. In 2006 I did that, and then as I walked it, I met South Koreans walking it, right? And often we'd meet on the ridge and they'd be like shocked. They'd say, "Ya, 누구세요? 외국인 왜요?" And I say, "I'm hiking the Paektu Dagon." And they would say, "That's astonishing. Like, how did you know about Paektu Dagon?" I says, "Well, only by chance." And then some of them who spoke some English would tell me and explain to me what the Paektu Dagon is. I started to realize that the Paektu Dagon was more than just a mountain trail spine. It was actually like something iconic and meaningful. So not only did it supply me with a great adventure and beautiful scenery and awesome encounters with local people, but it had this kind of spiritual and religious and nationalistic identity attached to it as well. In 2009, I decided to come back to Korea again, and this time I took like 6-month sabbatical from my job as a police officer in New Zealand, and I actually wandered Korean mountains. Like I went Bangnam-ja. 2010, when I came to settle in Korea, I've still explored the Paektu Dagon in South Korea, but then I had this idea to go to North Korea and continue with exploring it there too. I think I always had this ambition in me to try and do something creative or artistic, or to revisit that I think I have. And the only way to find out is to try, right? When I went to North Korea, when I got permission to go there and see these mountains for the first time ever, as a foreigner or any visitor, even most North Koreans haven't seen the mountains I've been to. I was the first person to step on these peaks of the Paektu Dagon in North Korea. Then I felt it was my duty and my job to record it. The best part of North Korea for me is the province of Yanggangdo, because it's a Gamaggo-won kind of plateau highland area. When you enter that area, when you drive up to the plateau, the highlands, Gamaggo-won, Paektu-go-won, Mulsan-go-won, where Korea starts to change its appearance. Because the rest of North Korea actually is very similar to South Korea. High and sharp and jagged. Okay, and there's rivers and valleys, and it's very familiar. But when you get to the plateau, it's like, wow, where are we? You really feel like you're on the roof of Korea, which is what Gamaggo-won means. And it changes, and you can kind of sense that you're now attached to a continent, and then you feel like lofty and high. So the hills and mountains are big, yeah, but they're kind of rolling hills. I think what the best impressions I got though was when I was out in the field, in the mountains, right? And I was traveling with guys from Pyongyang, okay? So they were city boys, right? So they didn't always like hiking, okay? But their job was to help me get access to the mountains, right? Find a way. There's no apps to help you get there. Like, you have to use maps, or better, use local knowledge. So you know you have to get to this town and then get to this village, and then at the village you have to ask people, how can we find our way to the mountain, right? And when you explain to the people what we were doing, this Weigukin here is taking photos of the Baekdu Dagon that reveal the identity of the Korean people and help North Koreans and South Koreans reunify using the Baekdu Dagon as a symbol for that. They got very excited when they found out why we were there, and they were often very helpful and very keen to be part of that experience, to be part of that operation, that expedition. Like, let's help these people find their way to the mountain. So those type of reactions were, in a sense, more meaningful to me than, say, what people at the exhibitions in Pyongyang may have expressed at the time. The Baekdu Dagon, once I became much more educated about what it is, to me, has evolved from being originally a mountain trail, but it's a trail that was built on a ridge. It's also a kind of the spine of the Korean Peninsula. It's the watershed of the Korean Peninsula. It's like the biosphere of the Korean Peninsula. It forms Korea's biggest rivers. If you look at it like from the geomantic aspect, the Pungsujiri, it's interesting because then the Baekdu Dagon is like a spine, and then the Pungsujiri is like the central nervous system of the human body that permeates through the spine from Cheonji, the birthplace of the Korean people, down the Baekdu Dagon, and then the energy spreads out through the Jeongmak, the subsidiary ridges, and then through the lesser ridges into like the rivers and streams of Korea. The water is like the blood of the nation. The mountain ridges are like the skeleton of the nation, and the Pungsujiri is like the central nervous system of the nation, and it spreads throughout the entire nation and into the people. Okay, so it's almost like an ecosystem. So if you take good care of it, then you will live a healthier life of it. I prefer to think that the Baekdu Dagon actually ends at Hallasan, because Hallasan is also a volcano and it has a crater lake. So Hallasan for the people of Jeju has always been a grandmother of the Jeju people. And Baekdu-san for the Korean people has always been the grandfather. Or everything in between, all the mountains are part of the family of Korea. So if Korea was a nation of mountains, then it's a big family. So the Korean people are part of that family. The division of Korea is kind of a disruption on the energy of Korea. And if you take the Baekdu Dagon into perspective, then the DMZ, the barbed wire, is like a tourniquet, restricting the energy between North and South Korea. So we need to kind of peel that off so that the energy can reflow, if you look at it that way. I've always felt in my travels around Korea, especially North Korea, that mountains are a good way to connect the Korean people. Because I felt that when I was taking my photos in North Korea, that I didn't feel like I was in North Korea. I didn't feel like I was in South Korea. I felt like I was in Korea, okay? Because we're up on these mountain peaks and there's no one bothering you, yeah? Like you're free to do whatever you want. More recently, since Moon Jae-in, Dae-Tong-yong, and Chairman Kim Jong-un have been started talking to each other, they have talked about the Baekdu Dagon in their speeches, and they've talked about Baekdu-san and Hallasan and how the Korean people are one family connected by mountain. So I think more recently I've started to, well actually I've thought this for quite a while, but that like the Baekdu Dagon is all those things I've already said, but it is and it can become a kind of a national icon or a logo or some kind of symbol for one Korea. Okay, so like one mountain, one people, okay, one Korea. So the Baekdu Dagon, because it forms the entire peninsula, for me these days is more so a symbol of hope for peaceful coexistence between North and South Korea. the exhibitions in North Korea are very short, like 2 or 3 days, and not everyone gets to see them. Generally, the people are obviously very excited to see this work and the fact that a foreigner is trying to help North and South Korea find some kind of peace or understanding through mountains using the Baekdu Dagon as a symbol. The biggest lesson I learned when I started traveling to North Korea, and then I started finding out why the Koreas were divided, because I needed to know what the problem was and how it came to be. So I did all of that. I learned about all the bad history of North and South Korea. And then when I was traveling around North Korea, exploring all these mountains, and then coming back to South Korea and having my exhibitions, and South Koreans would applaud me for doing great work, but they'd also tell me how much they wish they could do that themselves, right? And I started realizing that, it's kind of wrong that I should be able to do this as a foreigner in North Korea or in Korea, when it was actually foreigners that divided Korea, right? And yet here I am in North Korea having access to all these places because I'm a foreigner. Whereas really, Koreans should be doing what I'm doing. So my wish is that I hope that one day when North and South Korea are, if not reunified, at least coexisting together, and the border's much more easier to cross, and there's trade going on between business and sports and arts and culture and travel. It's my hope that when that situation arises, that all Koreans can travel freely on their own land. That's my wish. The mountains of Korea are kind of like the people, okay? They're all the same. They're all connected. 70 years of division can't divide thousands and thousands and thousands of years of being a Korean with their own language. I think people can see that through the mountains and the Baekdu Dagon and the message that we're all connected by these mountains, the Baekdu Dagon. So one mountain, one people, one Korea is mostly what the type of message I'm trying to send to people. And I'm pretty sure they sense that. Hiking the Baekdu Dagon, for me, that's exactly what it did. It actually changed my life. It improved my life because I didn't really have any issues before that. But the Baekdu Dagon has given me an opportunity to do exactly what I'm doing now.